Got a green light. Okay, 16:30, call to order the Columbia 911 Communication District Board of Directors regular meeting. Roll call. We have Jeff Flatt, Director Shelley Hennessy, is that how you say your name? And Director Rob Anderson, and I cannot read that. I believe Director Henry Heimmuller is online. There he is. And then myself.
For staff, we have Mike Fletcher, Director. Chandra Egan is online. We have Nancy Edwards, Danelle Hooper, Nathan Hughes, Mary Jo Beck. Online, we also see Kenneth Border. And I think that's all. Anybody else, Nathan? Okay.
All right. Public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? You are got 10 minutes. Just was it state your name and your address, right? Yeah.
Just your name.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what.
Yeah, just state your name.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So, Tyler Miller, citizen of Scappoose, and also city councilor for the city of Scappoose. Good evening. I had a stack of the letters that I sent y'all the other day to bring just in case somebody didn't get one. Did everybody have an opportunity to read the letter that I sent a couple days ago? Yeah. Okay. If not, or you didn't get it, let me know and I'll resend it. So I have a couple of topics I'd like to address the board about. The first is the Baldwin radio site. I didn't see the Baldwin radio site subject on the agenda for tonight's meeting. My understanding from two reliable sources is the Baldwin radio site was turned off several months ago. That is a major concern to Scappoose and the outlying areas as it inherently impacts the public safety in and around Scappoose as well as our city employees' safety. If the information regarding Bald Hill being turned off is not accurate, I ask that Executive Director Fletcher address that and ensure accurate information is provided to the board and the public that is listening or may listen later. Regarding the performance and reliability of the current radio system, I am again asking each of you, the Columbia 911 Communications District Board, to please place a priority on correcting the performance problems and consistent reliability of the system. This can be accomplished by hiring a qualified consultant to fully evaluate the system and provide a cost-effective, practical solution to keep the system performing as needed until any new system is installed and operational. Please keep in mind that any new system, no matter which is picked, is likely out 2 or 3 years. We need emergency communications to be reliable 24/7, and we don't know if taxpayers will pass a bond. If they do not pass a bond, then that will delay a new system another year or even more years. We don't know. As you may have seen, Coin 6 News talked about Columbia County Sheriff Brian Pixley, talked to Columbia County Sheriff Brian Pixley about the radio system problems. Coin 6 reported that the shooting Sheriff Pixley was involved in on March 31st, 2022 included a sorry, I can't talk tonight, it's been a busy, interesting day. Included a major radio system failure. Sheriff Pixley reported an OSP trooper tried to warn him ahead of time about the suspect, but the transmission was all static and Sheriff Pixley didn't hear what the trooper said. And just in case you guys don't know, that was the incident where the sheriff was on his way to the sheriff's office and he heard the call, he was close, and so he responded to Grumpy's Towing, where there was a suspect who was wanted in a murder or murders, I can't remember which, was there, and Pixley is almost immediately, as soon as he walked in, was shot at. If you haven't seen the video, it's very intense to watch, but I highly recommend that you watch it just so that you can understand the context of what I'm saying. I ask you to think about what would have happened if Sheriff Pixley would have been shot. As we saw in the video, the suspect almost immediately shot at Sheriff Pixley. Sheriff Pixley has a wife and 3 kids and a community that depends on him and looks up to him. Every day that goes by that the radio system is not fixed opens the door for unreliable communications where a first responder or citizen could be critically injured or even killed because the radio system did not work correctly. This situation also opens the door to major lawsuits for things like wrongful death that the district and others involved will be forced into paying hundreds of thousands of dollars just to defend. That doesn't include a jury verdict, that just includes the cost of defending such a thing. That's all preventable. We know from Rob Anderson's March 31st, 2022 911 board testimony, and he testified from his experience using the radio system as a Scappies firefighter. And if you haven't heard that audio, please go back and listen to it. It was very good testimony, very accurate testimony. Rob, I thank you for doing that. And the testimony was that the radio system coverage changes throughout the day. There was a lot of other things there too, but one of the key points is that the radio system coverage changes throughout the day. It's not reliable, it's not consistent. That is also what I witness when I listen to. I live up on a hill, I can almost see a tower, and it will be clear for hours at a time, and then all of a sudden it's just static. I didn't move the radio, nothing changed. Just all of a sudden throughout different times of the day, it's either clear or it's all static. I don't understand it. The next is I want to clarify on the in-building, in-school radio system coverage subject. First, I'd like to ask that each of you please go back and listen to the testimony I have given on the subject at the last several board meetings. In that testimony, I have said that I have the radios that I will donate and that I will find the funds to get the receivers installed at the Scappies High School. What I said was, please contact me or City Manager Rains so that we can collaborate on getting that equipment connected. We need an answer from this 911 agency if you will let us connect the receivers to the system. We cannot add the receivers without this 911 agency's cooperation. I have not asked this agency to install the equipment or pay for the equipment. I simply asked for dialogue and collaboration so that we can get the details figured out and everyone can be on the same page. The ignoring collaboration requests is just creating more and more opportunity for misunderstandings, which no one in this room wants. We simply seek to solve a serious public safety issue. As I mentioned earlier, the reliability of the radio system is probably the major problem. It is appreciated that the fire department, the police department, and Day Wireless went out to the Scappies schools to do testing and said the radios work. Well, the word work means a lot of different things, and I was able to capture audio during that testing, and a lot of it was full of static and cutting out. I have several recordings showing that. The other issue is, I know from listening from the first responder statements, Rob Anderson's own statements, that the coverage of the system changes throughout the day. I just talked about this, sorry for repeating it. Was the testing the fire department, the police department, and Day Wireless did during the good time when the radio system decided it was going to work better? We really don't know, but what we do know from testimony from users over and over again is that the coverage changes, and it changes a lot. Now, one of the things that I saw in Coin 6's coverage was Day Wireless standing outside of the school buildings talking like this on a radio. That's awesome. I don't know a single first responder that stands still, talks to the radio like this at 5 or 6 feet in an ideal condition. That is misleading. That is not how the first responders, we have first responders in this room on this board, you know that's not how it works. And in a situation where the communications are going to be critical outside or inside a school, they're going to be running. There's going to be a lot of noise. It is going to be a chaotic situation. So standing there and doing testing from this height is not a reality. It's just not. I'd ask if this is interactive, so I'll rephrase my question. So there's the TIA, the Telecommunication Industry Association Standards for Engineering. That is the Bible of radio system engineering. That is what all engineers use. And in that specifies what the loss factor is between using a radio like this and using a radio down on your hip, and it's about 10 dB gain. That's a lot. So using a radio up here versus how a public safety responder actually uses it down here, specifically police, who are going to be the first responders in an active shooter situation, more than likely. This was not a realistic test. And so I only point that out because I think it's misleading to think that a public safety responder in an emergency situation during an active shooter is going to stand there and talk on the radio like this, not moving in an ideal, perfect environment when the sun is out, the weather's great, and the radio is working perfectly. Very unlikely to happen. I'm not looking to blame C901CD, this agency, for in-building coverage, but I think any reasonable person can figure out that if the radio system has degraded in coverage on the outside of the building, as the users have reported, then it is realistic to say the coverage inside the building has also changed, and in some cases, or most cases, may now be non-existent. The radio system needs to be fixed. Building owners should not be held responsible for building coverage when one day the coverage may be there and the next day it's not. Same on the outside. The coverage is there one day, it's not on the next day. It's unreliable. Why not just fix the radio system so it works the way it's supposed to? That's the golden question right now. At the August 25th, 2022 board meeting, Executive Director Fletcher made some comments pertaining to me. For example, for the meeting minutes, Mr. Fletcher stated, if Miller is concerned with the general obligation bond and project costs, why would he be opposed to saving hundreds of thousands of dollars when the opportunity presents itself? And in context, this was about the surplus towers. I'll tell you why. Because in all the engineering that we have done so far with Tate, not one of the towers that they say, as far as the height goes, is 150 feet. They are all at least 190 feet or 300 feet to be able to get the coverage that's needed. So when we talk about getting surplus towers and that they're free, that's great if we're going to use them for the current situation and making it better. I get that. I can probably get behind that because we need a reliable radio system. But to represent that those towers are going to work for the next radio system, we don't know that. Nobody knows that because nobody's done the engineering yet. This agency has not done engineering yet. We have we're working on that. We're working on bringing that forward. But that was my reason for the tower comment. Is that if we're going to put in new towers, why don't we put in ones that are the right height for the next system too? I think that's a more physically responsible way of doing it. So that, to answer the question that Mr. Fletcher had, that was why I don't support that, but I would support it in a certain situation. I have another topic here, but because I'm at my time, I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? No?
Nobody online?
Sorry, I can't
Nobody.
see that.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
I'll help you out.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Additions to agenda. Is there any additions
None from staff.
from the board? Okay. Adoption of the meeting schedule for 2022-2023.
So in your packet, you will find a list of proposed meeting schedules. And so we're, seeking if there's conflicts in your schedules, and I can tell you that I have some that do conflict with the proposed schedules already.
And I just would like to confirm, we talked about at our last meeting of doing every other meeting alternate mornings and evenings. If that's still on the table, and if that addresses any of those conflicts you have.
Well, if it's all about me, yes, that would alleviate my conflicts, depending on where we are on the rotation. So it's your pleasure if you want to hold them in mornings or evenings or holidays.
I do have a conflict though, is I have football on Thursday nights, so that is my conflict with the evening meetings, and I understand what we're trying to do here, but
You have a commitment.
I'd have a child and I have some commitments there, so.
So we're looking at the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for October 27, and I have a morning conflict that day. That would normally be the next morning meeting. In the past, when I've had this conflict, we've moved our board meeting to the early afternoon. Usually I think we started at 1, am I correct? So we're open for conversation on that.
I'm not going to be available in early afternoons. So.
Early closing, just a few weeks away. Nicole Killian.
Is another day better? If we wanted to do, I know Henry has issues on Wednesdays, so the 26th won't work for him.
Should we look at Tuesday the 25th?
That's what I was gonna ask. 25th would work for me in the morning.
Can you do that, Shelley? Rob?
How about Henry?
Yeah. Henry?
I could make the I think I could make the 25th in the morning work. I have one meeting that day that I would have to rearrange, but I think I could do that.
25th a.m. going once, going twice. Where it looks like
Technically, that's day one of shift for me, but I can, as we approach it, check the calendar, and as long as we're not at minimum staffing, I can probably comp,
okay.
try to comp time.
Thank you. Anybody open to joining us here on Thanksgiving? We're open.
No, you're not.
Nancy, if you could help me, do we cancel generally November meeting, or we just move it to a different?
December's the one we normally cancel.
Okay.
November, we've normally moved it either up 1 week or down a week.
The 26th.
Leave it down.
So that was supposed to be the 24th. So the 17th. Does that work for anybody? Everybody?
So,
17th works for me.
Okay.
Works for me.
Yeah, I'm good.
How about you, Shelley?
yeah.
Yeah.
Henry, 17th.
I'm checking here. Hang
Okay,
on.
no worries.
And for the 17th, we're talking evening.
Evening.
If we're alternating back and forth.
It's evening. I probably
You
will
have
not
the,
be.
it's Thursday, you have football.
Yeah.
Yep. Not
The 17th, I wouldn't be able to make it, yeah, because I've got an AOC conference in Eugene that week.
Okay.
That's fine.
Well, we'd lose 2 board members. We'd still have 3, so we could
3.
still conduct business.
I'm
We
fine.
move off of a Thursday schedule to accommodate Bruce.
Wednesday, so that would be a evening meeting, is that correct? Yes, so I gotta make a note of this, day, evening.
Evening.
So if we moved it to Wednesday evening, I don't know what your days are like, Henry. I know you have commission meetings, but I don't know how late in the day.
Well, for that week, if we're talking about the 16th versus the 17th, I'm going to be gone that entire
Gotcha.
week.
Sorry about that, that's correct.
Well, if you got a quorum, I mean, I'll just if
Be
I,
absent?
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
and if I, if their schedule changes, so if I can make it, I'll be here, and if I can't, I just won't. As long as
Okay.
you guys have a quorum.
Well, I think right now we do. We'd have 3. So we could keep it the 17th
It sounds like you
evening,
3
and
can
we'll,
make it.
yeah, Rob, Shelley, and Jeff will be here. Okay, make a note. Bruce, Henry absent. Okay. December 22nd.
I don't know what folks' holiday plans are. There's been times when we've canceled our December meeting because of the holidays, but I have no problem being here myself.
I have no issue if it's a morning meeting.
It would be a morning meeting.
I'm thinking, if possible, I'd like to still see it scheduled.
Okay.
And then come November, depending on what action we anticipate coming up in December, if there's nothing significant, we can re-entertain the
Yep.
idea of canceling it.
Yep.
But I'd hate for business to be postponed for a month. It doesn't have to be.
Yep.
Sounds like a plan.
Yep.
That work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
January 26th, that would be on the rotation and evening meeting. If it's the morning, I have a conflict, but I could do the evening. Is there any other conflicts?
Just me, and if I can be here, I'll be here.
Okay. February 23rd would be a day meeting. Any conflicts?
Not for me.
As we get into winter, I can't really commit anything until
Yeah.
I see what
The
our
weather's
sports
like.
schedule and
Okay.
whatnot looks like, because
Right.
I have to drive, I have to drive.
Okay.
Jeff, is
So
that-
that's a 9 a.m. on February 9th?
It would be, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that.
Okay.
Go on.
How about Henry?
He's
I'm
looking.
good.
Yep, he's
Okay.
good.
23rd is another shift date for me, but
February?
yes, and we'll just see how it goes.
Okay. So the 23rd is also the March meeting. That would be an evening meeting.
I'm gone then. So I
Shelley's
won't-
gone.
I won't be available.
Okay.
Mike, I just had a question on the SDAO conference. Where does that fall into any of this?
It's usually like the first full week of February.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was going to be the last week of January or not.
Yeah, it's February. And I think it's Silver
Okay, so-
River this year.
All right, well, we still should be good date-wise there.
Okay.
Anything's better than Salem.
April 27 is scheduled to be a day meeting, and I have a conflict.
That will also be our first budget meeting.
I think we did this exactly this year as well, so. So if we could move that to, which was what we did this current year, we moved it to 1 p.m. Is that a problem with anyone?
I know, and then usually that one also then potentially changes when we talk about the budget committee
correct.
members.
Yep, it just rolls, everything
Yeah.
just scooted around the clock. Okay with that? Okay,
Yeah, probably
Okay.
1 p.m.'s not a good time.
yep,
So that one's for 1. Did I
Yeah.
hear that correct? Okay.
correct.
Sorry.
Next is May 25. That would be an evening meeting.
Go on this end.
You're good. Jeff's good. Shelley's good.
I think at this time.
Yeah,
I'll likely be gone that day.
okay. Made a note of that. June 22. That would be a day meeting.
And that's a day one for me currently.
Okay.
So I would be questionable.
I'm good that day.
You're good. Jeff's good. Shelley's good.
I think I'm fine.
Okay. And then the last meeting we have proposed is, that'd be July 27. And that would be an evening meeting, and if we keep it an evening meeting, I can do it, otherwise I have a conflict.
I'm good.
Jeff's good.
I'll be good on that.
Shelley's good.
I'm
Rob's
good.
good. Henry's good. We have a quorum, so.
Well, it is possible that June meeting I'll be at a conference, but I don't have those dates yet.
Okay. We'll play it by ear. Thank you.
Okay.
Move to approval.
Of August 25th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So move.
Have a-
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I just had a question. Do we need to actually vote on this proposed schedule?
I don't know.
We do. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, do I hear a motion on the new workshop proposal?
I move approval as we discussed.
Okay, we have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Discussion? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks for that.
Nancy.
Okay, approval of the regular meeting minutes for August 25th, 2022.
And I'll move.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Discussion? No discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Passes. Thank you.
passes. Financial reports. Acceptance of budget variance.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the budget variance report as presented.
Okay. We have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion. Not hearing any discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Passes.
Thank you.
Approval of expenditures.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the expenditures from check number 30965 through 31008 to include electronic payments and transfers for a grand total of $249,041.86.
I'm sorry, Rob, there's a correction. It should be 31009.
correct. Yeah, my motion, did I state 31008?
You did.
I meant 31009.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
There's that break in the line.
Yes.
Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Operation Managers Report.
I've got a staffing update. Columbia 911 currently employs 14 911 dispatchers. One of them's in training. We have a 15th that's about to start October 3rd. I've got another applicant that's in the final stages that should start at the beginning of November, and a very promising lateral applicant that we were looking at. Our trainee, Bree Brogley, successfully completed her training, and she's counted as a full staff member and is doing excellent. Lauren Brown is progressing well, and we've only had one inquiry that was internal that resulted in training. We're going to be sending a couple of staff members to the Oregon APCO 2022 Fall Conference actually next week, and so that'll be really good for a couple of people that have never been.
Where's that at this year?
In Bend.
Oh, close. Okay. Any questions for the Operations Manager? Okay. Technical Managers Report.
We updated the SD-WAN to use better routing, so it uses both the WAC and Clackamas network simultaneously, giving us greater redundancy. CAD servers have been updated with the latest security patches, which was very fast. I think we were down about 2 minutes and about 10 minutes to come back up. No issue. MDCs, so we've been rolling out new maps to the MDCs. Scappoose Police is now testing some of the new maps, along with Columbia River Fire and St. Collins Police. Audio recording, we installed the new Equator recording system with no issue in about a minute of downtime.
Okay. Any questions for the technical manager?
We'll just add one thing to it. We have posted the IT support, facilities person, the internal posting closed, and it's currently externally posted. And it's open for another week and a half or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Nathan.
Old business radio system.
Yeah, so what we're doing, I think I mentioned this last month, but we are actively in winter prep mode. Mountain sites, generators are being refueled across our network, as well as generator PMs are being conducted, all to get us ready for the winter. Bald Hill. So that we still are working with Day Wireless on a solution for that site. The most immediate and simple, and I use the words lightly here, is to adjust the current tower at Bald Hill. And adjustment meaning raising the height, because it is a fairly short tower. We have done the calculations to increase that height. A disadvantage to that tower, while it could be extended in height, it's a guided tower, which means it's being held by cables. And in order to raise it to the height that we want to get it over trees, those guide towers go out beyond the property lines of the owner of the site. So that's kind of a hard stop. So the next simple solution is to realign the microwave dish and point it to another site. And there are many options, both in Multnomah County and Clark County, that provide us an opportunity to relay from a different site and then back into our system. It's not optimal because it takes a lot of negotiations. We find whoever that site owner is, whether they're willing to let us co-locate, involves attorneys, and mostly time is the issue. Then you have to buy equipment. There really is supply chain issues with microwave equipment, so that's time. And then the work to install that equipment on towers, and then there's FCC licensing. Again, the critical issue of this is just time. Money is money, but time is what we're trying to cut down on. Next option is realigning this equipment that's existing on Bald. It's supposed to be talking to our tower here. And we're still working with the possibility of talking to property owners, but the other solution that we're currently acting on is our side of that pathway. And I'm working with Day Wireless to actually raise our antenna on our tower because it's fairly low. And if we can raise it up another 40 or 50 feet, that might just be enough to get up and over the trees in that pathway. So I'm seeking a quote from Day Wireless for that work. I expect that probably within the next week or so. And then that's a temporary solution. The other thing that we're working with, and I want to just publicly thank Army Corps of Engineers, who are extremely responsive to us and helpful. There's a possibility that they might be interested in giving us that site, as in ownership of that site. If that's the case, which we are starting those conversations, one of those new towers that we have, we could place, work with Cushing's to design the installation of a tower there, and that would probably be a 180-foot tower and would get us well up and over any of the trees.
What's the current height of that one?
It's about 60. So a dramatic difference. So there's a lot of things going on with that, and we're continuing to work with that. Meisner Construction, the civil contract with Day Wireless civil side is out of their contract office just today, and it was passed back to us for final review. I'm hoping that we'll have that done maybe this week, but most likely sometime middle of next week we'll get that wrapped up. They're ready to start turning dirt. Tower acquisitions, we received 3 of the 4 towers. The 4th tower is destined for the Meisner site. It's actually been received. It's just not where we're storing our towers. It's at the Day Wireless site. And today they started prepping the building and the generator for transport. And I'm just checking my notes here.
Nope.
That's it on old business. I just want to make sure here. There's a couple of things. There is an error on this on your agenda here. It's stated WACA surplus equipment. It's technically Clackamas County surplus equipment. I did meet with Motorola last week. We went over what that equipment is. Just for background of everyone, I've been dealing with the C800 board. That's the actual owners of this equipment. And while they've been very helpful, the board is made up of police chiefs and fire chiefs. So they're not really the experts on what this equipment is. They have spreadsheets and says this is what we have. So that's why I met with Motorola to actually go over what that equipment is. And so that was very informative. I'm working on a presentation for you. I'm not prepared to really go into details tonight, but it was very well, time well spent learning about what that stuff is. Talked about the Meisner site. Tow contracts, that's in the hands of the county. Ambulance service area. I attended the county's meeting this past Tuesday where Fitch and Associates presented to the commissioners, and in company of the meeting were all the fire and EMS providers from the county. It was a very well done meeting, very informative. I really appreciated the attention to the details of Fitch and Associates. They made a lot of recommendations. There are some recommendations for us as the 911 district, which we are in total agreement with. I'm not positive what the next step is for the county and the ASA project, but we're a part of that process, and so I'll keep you apprised as the county moves forward on that work. Haven Acres site improvement, there's nothing really going on there. It's just pending. I still have the ability, I'll know in a couple of weeks, whether or not we can acquire a monopole. That would fit that site very well because there is a small footprint up there on top of that little knob of a hill. And while we could put a self-supporting lattice tower, the property owner wants to keep our footprint small, and so a monopole would help achieve that. I think that is all old business, sir.
Mike, Cornhill, our insurance.
Oh, thank you. I had that somewhere. So I mentioned last month that all the replacement of the break-ins was complete, and it is. We closed out our insurance claim with CIS, and as of this week, they're starting to send us checks, reimbursement, and where we are today is just over $23,000 in reimbursement. So thank you, CIS. Thank you.
Bruce, if I can, so I heard right, Mike, you were saying when do you anticipate getting the quote back on realigning the dish for Bald?
Yes.
No, I said when.
Oh,
Timeline.
I'm hoping next week.
So I would ask the board to consider, if this exceeds Mike's spending authority, that the board to consider us scheduling a special meeting to address this to be scheduled after he gets the quote. So that way we can rapidly get this resolved as soon as possible. I would hate for it to sit on the desk for 3 weeks, waiting for scheduling and whether it gets worse and all that. I can't say that qualifies as an emergency meeting because it's been like this long. So I believe a special meeting requires, what, a week's posting or?
It would, yeah. But we could certainly call a special meeting.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that, or?
No, I just.
No, I
take it.
think that's a great idea, and I think that will address some of the issues that have been brought forth, so, yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Thanks, Rob.
Anything else?
You said time is of the essence on this one.
Thank you.
Yep, sounds great. Okay, new business, policy review.
So the board asked, well, there's a couple things. So Chapter 4 is the policy that's before you. It's board members' duties and responsibilities, and there's some other stuff in there. Of note, the only things that are changing is language regarding my increase in spending authority. So while the board took action, and that is been noted, we needed to update the actual policy that reflects that. And so that is found in this packet. And I'm trying to find it here specifically.
It's 25,000, wasn't it?
It's 20.
Oh, 20?
Yeah. And then the other thing that is changed in here is the public comment time limit. When I gave this to legal to make the changes on this document, they were actually surprised and did a query of their clients, which are many, and they said that the standard for all public comments is 3 minutes by all their clients. So we were the outlier. So that change has been drafted here. So page 411 is the spending authority. Page 4-7 is the time limit. So board's pleasure.
Do a motion, don't we?
We do.
Do I hear a motion?
I was just, this is Henry. I'll go ahead and move approval of the updated draft of the board policies for sake of discussion.
Okay. So we have the first, do we have a second?
Well, again, for sakes of discussion, I will second.
Okay. So we have a first and second, so discussion. Henry, you want to go first?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think that we are the outlier as far as public testimony time is concerned. And as we've seen here recently, we've had a number of folks show up at meetings, and if in fact every one of them wanted to speak and took their full 10 minutes, it really could certainly drag the meeting on. And not that we don't want to hear from folks, but oftentimes after one or two people speak, everybody kind of starts repeating the same information over and over again. I think this just creates some significant efficiency, and I'm kind of surprised we haven't changed that a long time ago. And then the other question that I had, for some reason I had it in my mind that we had approved the discretionary spending limit for Mike to 25,000, but I just wanted to make sure that the 20 number was correct in this document.
Well, I appreciate that, Henry, but we did check, and it is 20,000.
Okay.
Did we hear 40?
I didn't have any heartburn one way or the other. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have a typo in there. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Rob, did you?
Yeah, spending authority, fine with. I think we do have in our bylaws somewhere, and we get to it, that we try to limit our meetings within 2 hours, and we have to take actually a motion to go past. I can see where the 10 minutes bites into that. To me, 3 is a little short. I myself would rather see like maybe 5 minutes. That's my personal opinion.
And I did kind of ask them other people, you know, like the port, etc. And I did find 3 minutes is the standard. I'm personally more for 3 minutes than I am for 5. No heartburn if it is 5, but I don't know what the rest of the board's pleasure is.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think that it's important also to note that the chair can be asked for consideration, you know, in the event that there's a need for someone to go longer, they can ask for that consideration, or if the chair feels like the conversation or discussion is of importance to the board and to the meeting, the chair can also extend that from the bench.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that. What's the pleasure, Joe, guys? People.
Did they make a motion?
It's been motion seconded.
It has,
so
okay.
There's no more discussion.
Okay.
We can call for the question.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes.
I'm an aye.
You're an aye. An aye for an aye.
I'm not going to stop it. Just
Okay. CFO retirement.
That's been removed.
Oh, I got the old one. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, director's updates.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Over the past several months, this 911 center has been the center of attention. And as a general rule, local government business meetings don't generate a lot of public interest, and it's rare for us to even see members of the public attend in person or even as we moved to a virtual platform. This has clearly changed, and I would like to thank everyone for your interest in joining us and supporting us as we continue to do your business. This level of participation is allowing us to tell our story in a much broader environment, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. Last month at our board meeting, I started to shine a light on actual facts to tell you the truth about issues that are being told to you. This evening, I'm going to continue to share with you facts. Scappoose School radio coverage. Over the past several months, a lot of attention has been centered on a belief that the Scappoose School District is completely void of any public safety radio reception. Not only within the schools, but that there was not even radio coverage outside of the schools. It is most unfortunate because these stories create doubt and outright fear for the school district staff, students, and parents of the school district. Since these stories continue to be spread, the chiefs of Scappoose Fire, Scappoose Police, and this 911 center have been drawn into the unenviable position of trying to reassure the public and media, and where we are being forced to correct false information. This is a no-win situation. On August 31st, the Scappoose Fire District participated in a pre-first day school walkthrough with each of the school facilities, along with the school district superintendent, Tim Porter. During these building walkthroughs, the fire district conducted radio checks with the dispatch center anywhere and everywhere Mr. Porter asked for. The results were 100% success. Wednesday, September 14th, I met with our radio system manager and we conducted exterior radio testing at each of the Scappoose School District facilities. We conducted these tests at each of the 4 points of the compass, north, south, east, and west, outside of the schools. As an added measure for transparency, we videoed each test. The results, 100% success. On Thursday, September 15th, the Scappoose Police Chief, along with his officers, repeated the same test that the fire district had conducted, and Mr. Porter, the superintendent. They actually increased the testing because they not only talked to dispatch back and forth, but they did officer to officer inside the schools. The results, 99% success. In one place, within one building, there was no reception. The Scappoose Fire District and the Scappoose Police Department believe that there is sufficient and adequate radio coverage inside and outside the schools. Soon, we will be posting the results to our website, where you'll find a link to direct you to a message from me, emails from the school superintendent, and a document from the Scappoose Police Chief. There will also be a link to the videos. Radio system improvements, the Palins report. During last month's board meeting and in subsequent interviews conducted by Mr. Miller, he refers to something called the Palins report that the district commissioned in 2015 and was published in 2016. Mr. Miller states that of all the recommendations from Mr. Palins, the district only completed one. This is not accurate. The Palins report outlines several recommendations. A total of 13 recommendations were made. Of the 13 recommendations, 6 are complete. 5 are in some aspect in progress, and that there are 2 recommendations that are not within the control of the 911 district, and that's simply because we do not own or operate police, fire, and EMS vehicles. I will walk through these with you. The first recommendation was technology. What he's speaking to here is specifically about a new radio system, whether it should be analog versus digital, what we call P25. This actually is in progress. This is a recommendation found within this report that states the 911 district should consider moving to a new P25 digital radio system. This is an integral part of the work that is taking place to determine the best system for this district. Recommendation number 2, dispatch systems. This is in progress. This topic relates specifically to the radio dispatch consoles found in this building. This district is researching the proper product to replace our aging dispatch center radio consoles. This is partially dependent on what type of new radio systems we move to. Thus, we don't want to make a mistake and buy something that won't be the best thing for us and our users. Recommendation number 3, coverage. This too is in progress. This is actually the primary goal of any new radio system, is to improve radio coverage. That's our goal. Recommendation number 4 is interference. This is complete as best as we can. This issue relates to the district changing some of the radio frequencies that we did operate on and we currently operate on. This was completed and is the only recommendation that Mr. Miller believes was complete. It's not completely successful because of the bandwidth that we are on. We are on VHF, which is inherently filled with interference. Some of the testimony that Mr. Miller is stating is actually true. It is. We have interference, and we have very little control over that. Recommendation number 5, system maintenance and oversight. This too is complete. Mr. Palins recommended for the district to have an inspection and preventative maintenance performed on all of our equipment annually. The district far exceeds this recommendation in that we have inspections and preventative maintenance performed on all of our radio infrastructure monthly. Mr. Palins went on to further state that subscriber radios, and that is the radios owned and operated by the police, fire, and medical agencies, also conduct preventative maintenance. We don't own those vehicles, we don't own that equipment, and that is the responsibility of those agencies. Recommendation number 6, microwave. This has actually been in progress for the last 3 years, and we are approaching completion. At the time the publication was made, Mr. Palins reported that our microwave equipment was adequate. That was 7 years ago. I will share with you that this component has been experiencing partial failures over the past 3 years, which is why we are actively working on the replacement of these vital components. I will also add that Mr. Miller is in opposition to these system upgrades. Prior to last month's board meeting, Mr. Miller wrote to the board imploring them not to approve the system upgrades. After the meeting, he has continued to tell the board to rescind the authorization to these upgrades. It's odd because we are being held in a critical light of maintaining the current system and or improving the current system, which is exactly what we're doing, but yet he's in opposition to these very same upgrades. Recommendation number 7, interoperability. This too is part of any new radio system. It is all of our goals to improve interoperability, not only inside this county, but outside of this county. Number 8, site improvements. This is both in progress and some are complete. The addition of the courthouse receiver site was completed, and we are in active progress of completely rebuilding the Meisner site. Number 9, vehicle repeaters. The district does not own police patrol vehicles, fire apparatus, or ambulances. I will also add that many, if not all, fire agencies have some or several of these in-vehicle repeaters already installed in their vehicles. Number 10, vehicle location. This is complete. What he's talking about is something called AVL, Automatic Vehicle Locations. It's a fancy term for GPS for patrol cars, fire apparatus, and ambulances. With this technology, our CAD system can see and track emergency vehicles and in fact dispatch the closest vehicle to a call. As part of the new CAD system purchase in 2018, this feature was intentionally purchased and provided to every single user of this agency at zero cost. Again, the 911 agency does not own those vehicles, and some of our agencies take advantage of this software solution and some do not. But it's there and we promote its use. Recommendation number 11, mobile data. This is too complete. Mobile data relates to the computers found with emergency vehicles. The 911 district provides all public safety agencies brand new CAD mobile data software at zero cost. Recommendation number 12, fire department paging. This is under consideration. The Palin's report states that our current system and the backup system using cellular providers is adequate. This can be part of any new radio system. The cost and capabilities are part of any consideration of a new system. Finally, recommendation 13, equipment replacement. This topic speaks to the need for the equipment replacement, not just for the 911 district, but for the entire subscriber fleet. That's portable radios and mobile radios for every police, fire, and EMS agency. This is and will be part of any new radio system, and we are currently working on development of an RFP for that. Next, new radio system bond concerns. During several recent public meetings, the topic of any possible future request for a general obligation bond, and specifically the figures of $35 or even $40 million has been mentioned. A general obligation bond is just one of several options that this district could choose. It completely depends on the cost of any new system. Other options could include raising the tax rate of our special option levy, or a combination of both a general obligation bond and a special option levy. We could also use a combination of cash from our reserve funds, levy, grants, and even a lease purchase option. A point of clarification is needed here. The dollar amounts being tossed around are very misleading. A general obligation bond can only be used for capital purchases and or capital improvements. That means we can bond to buy things, radios, antennas, and towers. And we can bond for construction. This is the civil work to build radio sites for us. What we cannot bond is for maintenance and ongoing operational costs. The figures that are being tossed around are capital X costs, capital expenditures, capital improvements, construction, plus 20 years of projected operating costs. We could not and would not ever go for a bond for that amount because, frankly, it's illegal. I want to talk a little bit about the call for service on Rocky Point Road. During last month's meeting, a story was told about a call for service that the counselor believes could have been better served if Columbia 911 had a different CAD system than the one we share with Washington County. I don't want to get too geeky here, but I'm going to get a little geeky here. The statement has been made that there is a solution to this issue, but that Washington County refuses to make the change, and this is why we would be better served to be on our own and independent CAD system. That is half true. Yes, Washington County does not want to put the alleged fix in place. The other side of that truth is, neither do we. I can assure you that if we were on any CAD system, shared or not, the results would be the same. The issue surrounding that call is a common issue for multiple jurisdictional border calls, and I will explain this. Any call to any 911 center is routed by many different factors and different networks. Those networks and routings consist of wireline. That phone is a wireline phone. It's what we call POTS, Plano Telephone System. It's copper wires in the ground. There's also VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. So if you have the Magic Jack or you're making phone calls through your computer, you're using the VoIP network. TMLA, fancy way to say telematics. So if you own a newer car and you have a button, SOS, OnStar, something like that, that's a separate network that talks to 911. TTY, text telephone devices. This is for hearing impaired. We have text to 911 and we have wireless 911 networks. They're all separate networks and they all operate differently. For the call on Rocky Point Road, these are wireless cellular calls that depend greatly on where the caller is physically, where the cell tower is physically, and which phased array antenna that the cell phone, the caller is using, and what antenna array they're hitting on the cell tower. My beautiful artwork on the dry erase board, if you looked at the typical cell tower, there's different kinds. There's kinds that are just straight tubes. They all do the same thing inside that tube that does right there. But if you look at most cell towers, you will notice that the top of their pole is a triangle. Those are the phased arrays of cell phones, A, B, and C. All cell towers are pre-programmed as to which 911 center they will send a call to. It can be different depending on what tower and what antenna the caller's phone uses. It's possible, it's real, that one cell call to a tower can actually be routed to 3 911 centers. All depends on which phased array you hit. The other thing to know about 911 call routing, that in the state of Oregon, all 911 calls are routed based on law enforcement jurisdiction. In the case of this injured party, he was actually in Multnomah County. For all medical calls, I need to back up just one more minute. For this place on Rocky Point Road, over the past 3 years that I'm aware of, this center has received 911 calls for help in that location. The original call has been answered at Portland 911, Washington County 911, and even Vancouver, Washington's 911 center. Where it hasn't been answered is here. And why is that? The injured party was actually in Multnomah County. This is the other thing. For all medical calls, you get routed to law enforcement jurisdiction first. It's a medical call. Medical calls are routed to the fire jurisdiction. This call was in the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue Fire Jurisdiction. TVF&R is dispatched by Washington County 911. But there's one more jurisdictional boundary. That's why it gets very confusing. There's a thing called the Ambulance Service Area, the ASA. In this case, the ASA belongs to the Scappoose EMS provider. This call involved 3 different 911 centers: Portland, Washington County, and Columbia. What CAD system we use has nothing to do with this call. If Columbia was on its own independent system, the results would have been the exact same. Why is that? While Columbia 911 resides on the same CAD system as Washington County, we also share that same CAD system with the City of Lake Oswego 911 and Clackamas County 911. We all reside on the same CAD hub. That's the brains of the system. We actually have 2 hubs intentionally. They're geodiverse. They're 35 miles away from each other for the very reason we want redundancy that's safe. So if one center becomes a smoking hole in the ground, CAD will still continue to live. There's a concern stated that we only have a single connection to CAD. That is not true. We have 5 primary CAD connections. Each of those 5 primary connections have a backup, so we are 10 times redundant how we talk to CAD. We have fiber connections, we have 4 cellular connections, and we are putting in Starlink satellite connections to those CAD hubs. So while technically WACA could dispatch, WACA is Washington County's 911 center, they can technically dispatch our units, and they could technically dispatch Scappoose ambulance to this call. I'm telling you, it's a very bad idea, and none of us in the 911 world will do this to each other. Why is that? We reside on the same CAD system, but we do not share the same radio system. Thus, WACA would be dispatching in the blind. That's a very bad idea. They would have no idea if their dispatch would be successful. Potentially, Scappoose Fire could hear the tones go off, and I don't know what happens with their fire station alerting. It could open their doors, it can turn on their lights, they can make bells ring, and etc. But there would be no voice communication after that point. It would be silent. Even here in our dispatch center, we would hear the tones go off, but we know we wouldn't have set them off, and there would be no voice communication after that. It would just be tones going off, and everybody would be looking at themselves going, what just happened? If for any reason anybody in Columbia County was on that fire dispatch channel, whether they were talking into the radio or even if they clicked their mic, when WACA tried to dispatch those tones, they will fail, because that's the way the fire station alerting is purposely programmed. Voice communication always will override tones for life safety issues. Voice has priority over tones. So it's a very bad idea to dispatch in the blind for these reasons and others. If we were on our own CAD system, nothing would be different as to the processing of the call. We would be dependent on waiting for the 911 call from our neighboring 911 centers to be passed to us, just like it does every single day. Every single day, the dispatchers in that room catch calls for Portland, for Clark County, and for Cowlitz County because of the wireless phone networks. We catch calls on I-5 at Woodland all the way to Chehalis because of the wireless network. For our part in the performance of the Rocky Point Road, We received the call at 6:31 and 47 seconds p.m. We dispatched the Scappoose medics at 6:32 and 3 seconds. A total of 16 seconds from call answer to dispatch. I take that as a win. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
All right. Agenda items for October 27th, 2022.
I'm going to jump in there just for one moment. Well, we certainly want to hear any agenda items for the October 27th meeting. I did send invites to all of you for a special meeting. It's scheduled for next Thursday at 9 a.m. That's the 29th at 9 a.m. It's a total virtual meeting. So if you check your emails, you see an invite. I appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you.
And so you're able to make the publishing postings?
Yes, we did.
Agenda items.
Hearing none, we will continue on as normal.
Other business and member comments. Any other business?
None from staff.
Okay. Member comments? Anything? Okay. Anything?
Just hoping Henry's doing okay and wishing him well.
Thanks, Shelley.
Henry, you have anything for any comments?
Oh, I don't think so. Sorry I wasn't able to be there with you guys, but good work, everybody, and thanks to staff. Appreciate it.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I just have one point of clarification. Being as I've heard it said a couple times that, and it's true, back in March, I was critical of the system. And I said at that point in time, I did not have faith in the system, and pointed out a place like Havlik and Highway 30 intersection where I could not use a portable radio. That is all true, and I will say to that date, 100% stand behind that. I think what has not come to light is that shortly after that, a radio vendor did go to the Scappoose site and did find a piece of equipment that needed to be replaced. Essentially, what that piece of equipment did was the equivalent of putting on a set of earmuffs to the receiver of the radio. After that has been done, and I have ran multiple incidents along the highway, even past Fred Meyer's since then, that I have had absolutely no problem talking into the system with the portable radio. So I know there's work being done on the system, and I will validate from user experience when I hear people saying there are issues. On the other hand, this is one where there was an issue, and that's been mentioned a couple times, and I just have to highlight that, it has been addressed. There are still improvements to be done. I will be eagerly awaiting for Bald Hill to go back on site so it can be re-evaluated how well coverage has changed, both talk in and talk out, so that we can take appropriate action then.
Thank you, sir.
Just wanted to throw that out there, that things have changed, things are improving. Hopefully it continues along.
Thank you. That's good. I have nothing except for thanking the staff and especially Danelle, because we kind of had to use you at the fire station, so we appreciate your input and taking some time out for us. So
No problem.
that was appreciated. So I have nothing else.
All right.
We'll
Adjourn
adjourn.
the meeting at 19:44. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Henry.
For the screen.